fiscal year 2005, and there is no question that in the long run it takes some funding away from the sending districts based on the number of students who choose to attend a charter school. The formula also provides some assistance to districts to help them adjust to the loss of students through a multi-year phase-in of costs. As a result, Gloucester will not see any loss of funds in either fiscal year 2010 or fiscal year 2011. If in fiscal year 2012 we expect the tuition payments will reach less than 2% of net school spending, and our calculations suggest that in FY13 we expect that total to reach less than 3%, thus the phase-in. However, I want to be clear that the funding concerns of the Gloucester school community were very much on my mind, on my recommendation, and this was unprecedented. The board conditioned the opening of the school in September 2010 on the district receiving sufficient Chapter 70 aid in the FY10 fiscal year 2010 state budget to maintain foundation level spending. No charter school in Massachusetts has been subject to this sort of fiscal requirement in the past. This unprecedented step recognizes that Gloucester and every community in the Commonwealth is facing difficult economic times, and that if full funding of the Chapter 70 formula is not possible in the fiscal year 2010 state budget, this charter school's opening will be delayed. I understand the concerns that have been expressed not only here but across the state about the current charter school funding formula, but until such time as the legislature and the governor agree on a new formula, we are obligated to use the current formula. Madam Chair, I know that the legislature intends to establish a working group to discuss this very topic in an effort to find a suitable statewide solution, and my staff and I are ready to help you in any way that we can. The question of population estimates. The statute states that if a charter school proposes to open in a community with a population of less than 30,000 people, it must be a regional school serving multiple districts. We determined that Gloucester's population was over 30,000 based on U.S. Census data. As you know, the census estimates are based on a national head count every 10 years and are then updated annually through federally authorized statistical techniques. This is consistent with the population figures that we've used all along for charter schools. Some have suggested to us, I've not heard that in the testimony so far, but some have suggested to me that the so-called municipal street lists maintained by city and town clerks would be a more accurate source of population data. We have looked into this question and have found that there are several major problems with the street list data. Municipalities are not required to conduct actual door-to-door head counts. Most towns simply send out forms by mail, and there is often very little, if any, follow-up on forms that have not been returned. In addition, towns are not required to include residents under the age of 3 on their street lists. We have talked with experts at the Secretary of State's office, at the University of Massachusetts, and at the associations representing city and town clerks. We have not found anyone who supports the position that the street lists are a more accurate estimate of population than the U.S. Census data. I also am not aware of any other state program that uses municipal street lists as the basis for population data. It is important to note here that even if the U.S. Census estimate of Gloucester's population had been less than 30,000, the charter application still would have been weighed on its merits. The only difference is that the school would have had to apply as a regional charter. Lastly, I want to address the potential conflict of interest of David Buchanan, a staff member at the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. He is also an unpaid member of the Charter School's founding board. Public employees are permitted to engage in outside civic activities in their personal time as long as certain restrictions are observed. Mr. Buchanan acted appropriately in this case by consulting with the State Ethics Commission regarding the limits of his activities and by disclosing his involvement to me. He is not associated with the department's charter school office and had no role in the evaluation of charter school applications, nor did he use his position in the department to advocate or lobby for the school. To the best of my knowledge, he has abided by all of the requirements and restrictions in the ethics law to avoid a conflict. Madam Chair, again, I appreciate the opportunity to address these issues in this public forum. While I respect the opinion of those who disagree with our decision, I stand by our process and our decision. I would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the Commissioner? Senator O'Leary?
You did not address the issue of the proxy vote by the Secretary, and I guess my question is that practice happened in the past? Was this the first time that situation arose? Could you just explain how the board made that judgment?
Under state law, the Secretary may designate another state employee to participate in his place or her place, whoever the Secretary is. The Secretary is the only member of the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education and may do so. By statute, an ex officio member of a board, someone who is a member by virtue of holding office, may designate another state employee, and I can give you the statutory reference. That is something that's general across state government, not just for the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, and that is a practice that has been applied before.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for the Commissioner? And if you could give us that statutory site, that would be enormously helpful. You don't have to do it right this minute, but just when we're done with the hearing or tomorrow,
Sure.
That would be helpful.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. I'd like to now recognize Mayor Carolyn Kirk.
Good afternoon. Madam Chairwoman, thank you for being here. Mr. Chairman, welcome to Gloucester. Representative Benson, Representative Ferranti, Senator Tarr. We have a number of Gloucester City Councilors with us. Councilor Grow, Councilor Hardy, Councilor Devlin. I'm not sure if others have come in. We have the school committee with us, Mr. Verga, who's the chairman of the Gloucester School Committee, Mrs. Gilman, Mrs. Sweet, Mrs. Texera, and Mrs. Harrison. Thank you for being here. I'd also like to thank the Commissioner, Chester, for being here. Thank you. Chairwoman Banta, I know this is not easy, but I appreciate you being here. Mr. Farmer, and the staff from the DESC who are here as well. I welcome you to our city, and on behalf of its citizens, extend to you a deep appreciation to each of you for coming here today for this oversight hearing to respond to the concerns of the proposed charter school that we have in our community. The fact that you are here and are willing to listen with open minds, I think will go a long way to restoring the public's faith in how business is done on Beacon Hill. I also ask the citizens of Gloucester to listen with open minds and to be respectful at all times during this hearing. Before I begin my remarks, I'd like to read to you the testimony of our City Council President, Mr. Bruce Toby, who could not be with us today. Okay? And this is written verbatim by Mr. Toby. My name is Bruce Toby, and I am the President of the Gloucester City Council. Although the professional responsibilities of my day job prevent me from joining you this afternoon, I've asked Mayor Kirk to thank you on my behalf for conducting this oversight hearing. I've also asked her to share 2 points with you, for me. Number one, in my capacity as president of the Massachusetts Municipal Association, I offered a written statement at the December 11th hearing of the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, a hearing which not a single member of the board attended. I asked the board to consider the harm the current funding approach for charter schools is causing across the state. I wish they had heard and considered that testimony. While I know it is beyond the purview of this panel's oversight hearing today, I nevertheless remind you of that harm and urge you to exercise your leadership in the legislature to effect a cure. Number two, I urge you to listen closely to the advocacy you will hear this afternoon regarding the board's action approving the Gloucester Arts Charter School. As an attorney, I believe that action will rightly be characterized as flawed, irregular, unlawful, and arbitrary and capricious. In the aftermath of hearing that testimony, I urge you to haul the board onto the carpet and require it to reverse its vote. Again, please accept my thanks and welcome to Gloucester. Bruce Toby, President, Gloucester City Council, June 8th.